The Agenda is powered by DART, Delaware's transit service, moving forward.
Hi, Kerwin Gaines here from The Agenda. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in another week. We want to keep the momentum going. We're doing well with our guest, and this week is no exception. We've gone down to Sussex County for this guest, and it is the commissioner of the town of Dewey. We'd like to thank him for being here today, Mr. Paul Bauer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You know, a lot of our topics are Kent and Sussex from Dover up to, Kent and Newcastle from Dover up here. And we don't forget about Sussex County. There's a lot going on down there. But our guests are limited. I don't know what happens, but thank you for taking
We bring them all in every weekend, man.
We bring them in. And let me tell you something, the weather's getting warmer. Memorial Day was this Monday that just passed. The sun is out. And to me, that sounds like we're ready for the beach.
It was record crowds last weekend.
Was it?
I think the entire state came to see us.
And you know, I got reports through our news wires about the level of travelers that were going throughout the country, right? So when it comes to beaches, I look at the maturity of my life, right? When I was a child, we had a family place in Rehoboth and in Lewis. And then, you know, we would go out for nights in Rehoboth. And then when I was at Delaware, we were at Dewey. And then I get kids, and now they're younger, and we're at Bethany. And then we're just, you know, it goes through that. But Dewey was always the place of good time. Right. And I don't think any of that has changed.
It hasn't changed. And I agree with you. I mean, every town matures. We all mature. You know, we do different things when we're, 40, 50, 60 than we did at 20 and 30. So.
Some of us, not all of us, but some of us do mature.
For the most part. But, it's funny. I've been in Dewey for 35 years, and the change that I've seen over those 35 years has been dramatic, really, but without losing any of the fun aspect of it. When I look at Sussex County in general, I mean, Lewis Beach has they have a vibe to their beach community. Rehoboth has their vibe. Bethany and South Bethany and Fenwick, they have their vibe too. But Dewey is a unique vibe, and I think everybody from all those towns will come and see live music and enjoy themselves. And, you'd be surprised to see how many good restaurants we have in Dewey Beach now. The family aspect of people coming to Dewey Beach, we bring everybody in, and it's we've really been I think we've done a good job of being really inclusive of everybody, and that's what we want. I mean, we're a tourist destination, so there's very few of us that live there. I think the last census had 391 of us, so
that actually live there year round.
That actually live there year round. So.
Dewey hasn't changed.
But there's 20, 30, 40,000 people. I couldn't tell you how many people were there last weekend.
Wow. So, I mean, the infrastructure alone in dealing with that, I mean, it has to be just just an undertaking from the traffic to, and at 21, it didn't seem like a problem. At 23, I could take that, and that's why I'm going. Now at 45, I'm like, I don't know if I can make it through this traffic, or I want to be around that many people. But
that's true.
You know, things change, but Dewey has always had that place. So for me, when I talk to my friends, we all have our Dewey story. You know what I mean? We all have our beach story.
Has a good one.
And, it's just something is always, you just never thought about what goes on behind the scenes to keep the city moving.
It's controlled chaos at times. I can't lie.
Yes, it is. It is. So tell me a little bit about, some of the things that are going on right now at the beach, some of the big things.
Some of the big things. So, it's warming up, so everybody's starting to come down. We have these are college graduations now. I think University of Delaware graduated last week. So you have a lot of their recent graduates there. Week before we had Loyola from Maryland. I mean, see a lot of the schools, this is their destination.
Okay.
But now we have high school graduation starting. So these next couple of weeks we have excuse the phrase, but June bugs, as they're fondly referred to by locals here at the beach. But and we love June bugs coming down there. My kids went through it. You know, it's been a rite of passage for many years here in Delaware. Is, you know, you graduate, you go down to Dewey Beach. So we're trying to think of good events for them to do while they're there. But kids are going to be kids, so you know, we know why they're there. You got to behave. So, you know.
And you made it clear in our pre-interview that you have a whole new chief of police that came in last year, I believe it was.
Last St. Patrick's Day, not this past one, the year before. So she's been on a job for about 15 months now. So she's doing a fantastic job. It really brought some new ideas to us. Our previous police chief was there for a long time. So Sam retired, and Chief Speak has come in and brought some new ideas. You know, some fresh ideas, some new energy. You'll see our officers walking the street, you know, all day, all night,
getting out of the cars and actually being true community policing.
Be part of the community, right? They're doing a good job, and then our seasonal police are helping out on weekends. They're the eyes and ears. You'll see them on bikes and things like that. But and we have a couple of police dogs that we swore in too. So keep they don't sniff for marijuana, but they sniff.
So people at home can calm down is basically
calm down, right. It's legal. You still can't smoke the stuff on the streets. You can do it in your house. That's what the law is. But yeah, and you can't smoke it on the beach either. You can't smoke cigarettes, cigars, and you can't smoke anything on the beach. You can't drink on the beach in Dewey either. Although that's how the town pretty much started. So.
Right. Tell us a little bit about that. You mean it started? Was there a story?
Pre-1981, there wasn't a town, and I think the amount of partying on the beach back then got a bit much for everybody at the state level. Okay. So, as you know, this is passed down through generations of how this story's told. But as near as I can tell, that's when the people that owned property there, they had to form a town. So that was 1981, and Bruce Vavalo was our first mayor, and from 81 till now. So, you know, we've grown up a lot since then.
You sure have. So tell me, I mean, it seems like all the beaches tend to work in tandem with one another. I don't want to use the phrase one beach, one Delaware. I mean, we're small enough. We don't have to combine anything. But, I mean, to really handle the load, there has to be some symmetry there.
We help each other. I mean, from a policing aspect, we go help other towns out. They help us out, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. I like the expression that you told me to kind of bolster the business, is that mom and dad still like to have fun, right? So these aren't all 20-somethings that are down there at Dewey. There are people there of various ages that still want to get out and do the restaurants and do the things. What would you tell them that would say, you know what, it's just too rowdy down there. I don't want to go.
Well, I'll give you our demographics. We have rough numbers. We have 1,600 properties. 700 of them rent. Guess how many group houses we have now with rowdy group houses?
I couldn't even begin.
11.
That you have identified as rowdy group houses?
No, there are 11 group houses.
Okay.
Everything else is a weekly rental.
Okay, got you.
So, but a lot of the people that were in group houses bought houses. So it's, you know, you're just not in a group house anymore. But that whole perception of Dewey Beach from the 80s and 90s, heck, I was part of it. I mean, my wife and I were in group house. Right. So, you know, you're in a house with 20 of your closest friends that you just met a couple weeks ago. So, but yeah, the group house phase is really, you know, it still exists, but not anywhere near what it used to be. But that also, you know, out of those 1,600 and minus the 700 that rent, 900 of them it's either primary or secondary homes. So in a secondary home, a lot of the cottages became old. They were getting close to 100 years. They weren't made to be lived in 100 years after they were built. And so they've been purchased, and nice houses have gone up. And when you look at just the general area of Dewey Beach, you got an ocean on one side and you have a bay on the other. So you have people that love boating, and you have people that love going to the beach, and you have people in the middle that like going, outdoor in the afternoon, in the evening. So it's a little bit of everything, but just from a general view of it, there's something for everybody in Dewey Beach.
Yeah. You were telling me, how many bars are there? And
it's only one.
There's only You're saying that into the camera, just letting you know.
No,
there's
definitely
only
definitely
one bar in Dewey Beach.
There is one tap room.
Okay.
One tap room license, and that's the Bottle and Cork.
Okay.
Which has been there since 1936.
And the rest are?
They're all restaurants.
Okay, I got you. That makes sense.
That serve alcohol.
Okay. And they do.
And they do.
And they do it well. They do it well.
Yeah. I mean, it's not mutually exclusive that families don't, mom and dads go out and have fun. So,
right.
And I try to explain that to everybody. It's, we didn't try to make it family friendly. We just opened it up for everybody. What can we do to attract more things? So Monday nights we have movies on the beach, and they're kids' movies. We bring in a ton of people for movies on the beach. We've been doing that for 15, 20 years at least. Wednesday nights we have bonfires, and these are free events. Even on Monday nights we have free parking from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. to encourage people to come out, go to the restaurants, and go see a movie on the beach with the kids.
Okay. Now let's get down. So, I love that you're here. I love that you made the journey up Route 1, but this is the agenda, so we have to get into legislation. A topic that has been I think it was directed solely at beach properties, but that's the short-term rentals. That's up for vote. Tell us a little bit about it and how it affects the town.
Well, I'll give you the perspective of a tourist coming down to Sussex County. Short-term rentals, the state is looking to impose a tax, and it was proposed at 8%. I'm not sure where it's getting lobbied and negotiated at to now, but I'll give you an example. Let's just, for argument's sake, say it's at 8%. And you rent a house in Rehoboth. Rehoboth has an 8% municipal tax, and now you would pay an additional 8%. So all of a sudden you're at 16%. Dewey's a little unique. We have a 3% rental tax, not 8%. So we would be 3 plus the 8 from the state, or 11%. I'm not happy at 16, but I'm a little happier at 11%. There's a point where you price, that's going to get passed through. I mean, if you or I own a house and we're renting it out, we're not eating it.
Right.
You're going to pass it on to just like when you go to the hotel, you ask for the rate at the door.
But you still have to maintain some type of competitive nature, even though we're passing it on.
Right.
Could they get this someplace cheaper?
Right. So if you decide that your price is now too high, you lower your price, or you're essentially eating some of that tax yourself. So we'll see where it goes. I'm hoping they get more reasonable in Dover and come up with a smaller number, or phase it in. Once you go if you go to 0 to 8 overnight, and they wouldn't do it overnight. It would start with next season. So we'll see what happens in legislation on that this month. But that. People, a lot of the complaints I get is like, it's expensive. Well, everything got more expensive lately. So, that's one of the things. Our cost of administrating the town have gone up. Our salaries, go up. Our health care for our employees went up. Those are things that you got to cover. So, besides those costs going up, so we raised parking a little bit, 50 cents. When you do things like that, it doesn't make people happy. But it's a cost of doing business. I mean, we still have to keep people safe once they get there.
Yeah, and there's really, at this point, there's no way around it, right? The overall inflation is noticeable on just about everything. So I don't think as much as people are upset that the prices are going up, I think they're upset of how much the prices are going up. Because once they get to that level, what's the likelihood? I mean, honestly, as the commissioner of Dewey Beach, what's the likelihood that you're going to reduce pricing of parking, you're going to drop it back down to what it was last year if the overall interest rate drops 2 points? No, you're going to keep it there. And people are upset now that, it's only going one way.
It's only going one way, right? It's once prices get increased, I think it's rare that you see them come back down.
Right.
Gasoline's the only one you see fluctuate a little bit. But that's a supply-demand product. There's only one beach. There's only one supply of it. So
there's only one beach.
And there's demand.
and there is a demand. So I think, speaking of people that watch the agenda there, I think they're just concerned, not just from Dewey Beach, but just from everywhere that, once these prices go back up, they're
Right.
not going to
They're
come
not coming
back
back
down.
down. You're
So, I need my salary to continually go up. And then just mentally, I'm paying this for that. Like,
Right.
I'm paying this for a loaf of bread. I'm paying this for whatever it is. And it's just crazy. And if we're going to talk about food, we'll be here all day for the prices that we're paying now in the supermarkets. But the other part about that is when we're talking about, and people need to understand Dewey as a whole is, even though you have a lot of folks down there doing great things, it's not a wealthy town. I think you said your budget's only about
$4.5 million budget.
$4.5 million for that
We
town.
live within our means. Sometimes you got to raise things a quarter, 50 cents here and there. But,
Yeah.
you cover. I mean, the increases we get really has been on the benefit side for our employees. So, I mean, those costs are going up. Where's that money come from? We have to come up with it somewhere.
And you don't control healthcare costs, right?
We don't control that, right?
Most municipalities, all you're doing is reacting to healthcare costs. And you've mentioned the fact that you had to hire 2 more police officers. People are coming and going, and then there's just actual hiring that organic hiring, so to speak, to come up during the year. These are things that are just the cost of doing business, right?
Sure.
And somehow or another, those costs have to get rolled out to folks. So you're depending greatly on fees. And you're depending upon, like you were saying, transfer taxes and things of that nature in order for the town to survive. So the other legislation, I believe it's Senate Bill 23. Yeah, that's the auxiliary dwelling unit. So I guess over the past, 5 years, these tiny homes, I mean, there's shows on them now. And I want to be honest, I drive past them on the road. There's these Amish builders that put them up. They do look attractive. I could put that in my backyard. I think I could make that happen.
Right.
How could I make money off of this? But it's becoming an issue, almost a menace for the town, for landlords trying to squeeze in more people in their backyard, basically.
So, yeah, it exasperates a parking issue is really what it comes down. People don't, there's reasons you have setbacks in your zoning codes, because you don't want a house right up against your house, right? So you want some green space. But if this passes, that takes it out of our hands. And obviously being on the local side of politics here, I mean, you look at it, there's home rule. I mean, we know our community better than anybody else does. So if the state allows this to happen and it bypasses our codes to, like I could take a parking lot that is for parking for all the units of a townhouse, put tiny homes in there and rent them out for $1,000 or $2,000 a week.
But is this the state's, I guess, chance to deal with affordable housing?
Right.
And is that the overall goal? But unfortunately, it can affect you negatively.
Yeah, I think that's the intent. And all things, they're good ideas in theory, but I think you have to think it all the way through and saying, well, what's the consequence of doing it? What's the unintended consequence? Like, well, we got housing, but we have no place for these people to park. So,
right.
And we're going to put more cars on Route 1 too, so driving back and forth.
I hope not. I hope not. But when we're dealing with the affordable housing, we're also dealing with trying to stop people from becoming homeless, right?
Correct.
So, the tiny homes do help with that. There are initiatives throughout the state trying to put displaced folks into tiny homes because it is a more affordable way. But Dewey is no exception, and I guess there are challenges of dealing with homeless residents of the state of Delaware and not knowing what to do. We still care a great deal about them.
Right.
We still care about their safety and well-being, but there is a space issue.
Right. Especially on a beach too. I mean, if you could picture, just Dewey Beach or any other beach, if it had a bunch of tents with homeless people in it, we couldn't rake it. We'd have a dirty beach, and that's not a good thing for tourism. I get complaints now of people setting up their chairs and umbrellas at 8 o'clock in the morning.
It's called staking your claim.
You're staking your
You're
claim.
staking your claims.
You imagine what's more permanent. It's for 4 months worth, 5 months worth. So you have to be reasonable about it. You have to think it through, and I really think there needs to be a connection between the people proposing the bills and the local communities that it affects.
So you mentioned something that was very interesting in our pre-interview. It was like, we have the Hope Center here in Newcastle County. Granted, it's had its rough time this month, but Kent County, Sussex County, we really need to take a look at developing something similar to that in those counties as well.
Right, whether that's done at the county level or the state level.
But that's going to help alleviate a lot of this stuff.
Right. I think that's a better route to go.
Okay. So we can't keep the beaches clean without, well, I don't want to say that. There's dependency upon the state, such as DENREC, to help with the replenishment of beaches. I mean, due to
Correct.
storms, erosions, and all types of just natural environmental issues that we're dealing with here. Hashtag global warming. But these are just some things that we deal with, and it seems like DENREC is pulling back on that.
Yeah, that's been discussed with municipalities that it affects. So right now, beach replenishment is paid for 60% by the federal government, 40% by the state. The state agency that handles that is DENREC. So that 40% of beach replenishment, where does DENREC get that money from? And when you rent a hotel room, you pay an 8% tax on your hotel room.
Okay.
And with this short-term rental, that would be mirroring what a hotel does. So 1% of that would go towards beach replenishment. So if you pass a short-term rental tax and you have a hotel tax at 1%, but that was the purpose of having it, you can't keep the money. What's the state going to do with it? Pocket it? I mean, where are they going to? They're going to take it and repurpose it somewhere else. So now I have to, I still have to manage a budget here in Dewey Beach, which is now going to be a lot more because I need to save for every 3 years when we do a renourishment of the thing.
Yeah.
And it's costly.
And that's not accounting if we have a heavy storm season.
Correct.
So there may be something that has to happen because maybe I'm not 100% sure what is covered in beach replenishment.
So the Army Corps of Engineers comes in and put in pipes and they pump the sand that's been dragged out. Most of the sand that erodes doesn't go out far. It goes out a couple hundred yards. So you're taking that sand and you're pumping it back up onto the beach.
Gotcha.
Not like Mother Nature took it and just threw it away. Mother Nature still has it. So
right.
You just got to get it away from Mother Nature and bring it back to where it was.
So they're not going out and trucking the stuff in. They're just bringing it in from 200 yards out and I guess redeploying it to the beach and
where it used to be.
Where it used to be. Right.
Our dunes are in great shape. But as long as your dunes are in great shape, we normally hardly ever. I mean, it's happened in 1962 where it flooded from the ocean in.
Okay.
Dewey's on a slant, so the bay side is shallower. I mean, it's a lower elevation than the ocean side. So the flooding happens from the bay in.
Okay. And
I think a lot of the pictures you mentioned earlier, where you see the breach of where it's coming in over the ocean, that's at a place called Old Inlet Road. And that's where the old inlet used to be. Gotcha. And Mother Nature still knows it's there. It still thinks it's there. It's not listening to anybody. So that breach that you see, it happens right at Old Inlet Road.
All right. So keeping, I guess, Mother Nature in the conversation, the windmills, and there's legislation, conversation about that going down there. And I didn't expect as much opposition in regards to windmills as we're actually getting. Could you shed a little bit of light, not on the opposition per se, but how it is affecting Dewey?
Well, it's not affecting Dewey right now. Fenwick is getting impacted right now. There's 2 federal leases. U.S. Wind has one, which that federal. So picture if you were drilling for oil on land, you can drill on a federal land and you got a lease for 100 years or 50 years, whatever that lease was. But now picture that in federal waters. So our boundary ends 3 miles off the shore. That's it. These things are out. If you took Cape May and drew a line straight south, that would be where the windmills are going. That would be close to Dewey Beach. And that's through a company called Ørsted, which is the Skipjack project. U.S. Wind is down by Fenwick. U.S. Wind is proceeding now, trying to get there, because once you have windmills, and you got to get that electricity on shore.
Right.
And you got to get it across the bay. So they're proceeding now. Ørsted, nothing's happening yet, but they have the federal lease there. The initial design was for 140 windmills to go there. So do people like, when you sit on the beach, you like that peaceful feeling of the waves coming in and just a pure view of the ocean? People enjoy that, no question about that. The debate is over, well, can you see them? Because they're going to be so far out. So on a clear day, we can see Cape May, which has a 5 or 6 story, I forget what their height limit is over there, 5 or 6 stories at most. But these windmills are 92 stories tall. So
you're going to see it.
So if you went to New York City and I was 10 miles, 12 miles away, would I see Tall buildings, yeah. I can see tall buildings from pretty far away.
Yeah.
And especially if you have 140 of them. Shipping containers go up and down that whole shipping channel right there. So these are right on the other side of that shipping channel.
So I'm picking up that the consensus from your community is...
We don't like them.
Okay. We don't like them. And the tourist community, could they go either way or?
The argument is that it's green energy. The counter argument is it's now the rates that would charge. They're trying to cap what the increase is going to be. So if you're going to raise my electric bill and put a windmill in front of it,
yeah, how is this benefiting me?
How's it affecting me? You know, like we talk about going to the grocery store. It's a pocketbook issue, right? You know, how's this affecting me altogether here? Is it costing me tourism? Am I losing rentals? And there's so many studies out there. We're not the first region to have windmills near it, but people just in general, it can cost them. But I don't know which studies to trust.
So, are you pushing this? I know you're pushing this in Dover, but what kind of feedback are you getting from legislation?
It looks like it's going to come on shore.
Okay.
Now the question is, what happens now closer to Dewey Beach and Rehoboth Beach, and Lewis?
So this is the opportunity now. You're on the agenda. You have everybody's attention. Tell us why this weekend they should hop in the car and come down. And if not this weekend, this summer, down to Dewey.
Book your plans. It's southern Delaware. We've put together the Culinary Coast promotion, and I think you'll be shocked at how many good restaurants, all the family events that are going on, and. When you're in one beach town, you're only a mile away from another beach town. So, there's plenty to do. These next couple weeks are the least amount of traffic.
Okay, I did not know that.
Right. Those are the softest weeks. That's why they used to have Firefly
Gotcha.
right around this time too. So, but once you hit the late June, it gets a lot more crowded. July. First couple weeks, August, that's the busiest time at the beach.
Right. So tell me a little bit more about this Culinary Coast, because I'm interested in that.
Okay, so we're having a restaurant week. I think that's next week. Yeah, first week of June. So that's different specials at a lot of the restaurants, and that's done through the Chamber of Commerce, Rehoboth Dewey Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So people can just come down. They can hop on a website.
We got the best crab cakes at Woody's. We got Starboard Claw, which is a new seafood restaurant that opened last year. Most beautiful place we have in town. Nice little rooftop area that overlooks.
I thought that was the Bottle and Cork was the nice.
That's pretty too, in just different ways. That's what I mean. We have something for everybody.
Yeah.
There's stuff for young kids to do. There's stuff for older people to do. And then one of the things we didn't talk about was, the beaches. We put dune mats across the dunes. This is 2018. Summer 18 or 19. But I was shocked. I really underestimated how much that would get used. We all have older parents. You get older, those knees hurt a little bit more, especially when you're climbing up over a hill to get down to the beach, and you get there and the sand's really hot. So we put these dune mats in, and I can't tell you how many compliments we got on that. So now we went one step further, and we put an observation area in. So if you're in a wheelchair, for example, but you want to go down with your grandkids or your kids or whatever it is, we gave an area that they could go to without going all the way through it into the sand. We have wheelchair rentals. You just call us, call the lifeguards station, and they bring it right to you. They meet you at the end of the dune and take you up and over.
That is awesome.
Yep.
Well, let me tell you something. I hate to cut you short. Thank you so much for coming up. Thank you so much for being on the agenda. I think it was a great interview, and I look forward to seeing you back here.
All right, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and everybody else in Dewey Beach.
Absolutely. And we look forward to seeing you next week right here on the agenda. Thanks for tuning in.